My mother begged me to come home for the holidays. My name is Claire Miller. I'm 30 years old, and like a fool, I honestly believed this Christmas might be different. She called me in London at 3 in the morning, crying on FaceTime, saying we never see you anymore and the whole family needs you here. After 10 hours on an uncomfortable overnight flight, 2 layovers, and a dead phone battery, I still arrived at her door in San Diego with a suitcase full of gifts for my brother's kids. I was exhausted, smelled like stale airplane coffee, and my back ached. I rang the bell, my heart beating faster than it should have, hoping she would hug me the way she did when I was a child. The door opened fast. No hello. No. How was your flight? No hug. She looked straight at my suitcase and said, as if it were completely normal, "You'll babysit your brother's kids. We're going on a family trip." My brother stepped into the doorway wearing sunglasses, a duffel bag over his shoulder, the kids hanging off him. He smirked and said, "Hey guys, don't wipe your snot on Aunt Claire. She's jet-lagged." They all laughed, like I was the joke. My parents, my brother, the kids, everyone laughing while I stood there with messy travel hair and a credit card bill full of flights I had paid for. I didn't shout. I didn't cry. I just felt something inside me shut off, like a switch. I smiled, set my suitcase down, looked my mother directly in the eyes, and said one sentence. That was the moment everything changed. The laughter stopped. The color drained from their faces. My mom kept whispering, "No, no way." By the time I finished, their dream vacation was over. Their house was at risk, and I was finally done being their free babysitter and personal bank. Stay with me until the end, and I'll explain exactly how one so-called ungrateful daughter ruined her family's perfect holiday and took control of her life at the same time. The truth is, the moment I said that sentence, the entire room froze. But to understand why, you need to know what the people at that door had been doing to me for years. My mom didn't suddenly miss me when she called from FaceTime. 2 weeks before that 3 a.m. call, she had already sent me screenshots of extremely expensive holiday prices, hinting that she and my dad could never afford something like that unless I helped just a little. Just this once. Just this once. Was how every favor always began. When my dad needed knee surgery, I wired money. When my brother Jason maxed out his credit cards chasing his big e-commerce idea, I helped consolidate his debt. When the water heater broke and the mortgage was overdue, I sent money, then saw my mom post photos the following week from a new brunch place downtown. I live in a tiny flat in London. I cook most of my meals. I walk to work in the rain. Somehow, I was still paying for Uber Eats, streaming services, and subscriptions in a house I didn't live in, on a continent I no longer lived on. This time, before I booked my ticket, I paid attention. I saved every Zelle transfer, every PayPal receipt, every "thank you, honey, we'll pay you back" when things calm down. I noticed something else too. An email from the bank with my name on a mortgage I didn't remember agreeing to. Years earlier, they had listed me as a co-borrower to get a better rate, and I had been covering the gaps ever since. So while my mom cried on FaceTime about how the kids miss you and Mia keeps asking when Aunt Claire is coming, I sat on my bed in London, staring at my banking app, realizing my family only treated me like part of the group when a bill was due. I almost said no. I almost told her to handle it herself. Then another thought hit me. If they were willing to pull me halfway across the world to use me as a free nanny and walking credit card, I was finally willing to show them what happened when I stopped playing along. I booked the flight. I also scheduled a call with a financial advisor, downloaded 3 years of statements, and had a simple document prepared using a legal template site. So when I stood in that doorway in San Diego, while Jason laughed and my mom announced my babysitting duties like a finished decision, I wasn't just the tired, jet-lagged daughter they expected. I rolled my suitcase inside, let the kids jump around my legs, and followed them into the kitchen. Their printed itinerary was spread across the counter like a glossy promise. Resort photos, flight times, family package, in bold letters. My mom tapped the brochure and said, "See, this is why we needed you here, honey. The kids will stay with you. We'll finally get a real vacation. You always say we should take care of ourselves." I looked at the resort name, recognized the card number on the confirmation email open on her phone, and felt that same switch flip again. They believed I had come home to be their built-in nanny and bank. In reality, I had flown 10 hours to do something I should have done years ago. I smiled, asked my mom to gather everyone in the dining room so we could review a few things before they left, opened my laptop, and pulled up the digital receipts that would end my role as their free resource. My dad sat at the head of the table like it was a formal family meeting. My mom hovered by the counter, clutching the itinerary. Jason scrolled through his phone, barely listening. Mia and Logan spun in circles on the tile. I slid the laptop forward, turned the screen toward them, and said calmly, "Before you go anywhere, we need to talk about money." Jason groaned. "Claire, seriously? Now?" My dad muttered about bad timing. My mom gave me a hurt look and said, "Honey, we've been under so much stress. Can we please not fight right before we leave?" I didn't raise my voice. I clicked open a folder labeled Miller Household and brought up a spreadsheet. Every entry was dated, color-coded, and clear. Last March, I said, "You called because the mortgage was 2 months behind. I sent $1,200. In June, Jason's business expenses maxed out his card. I sent $2,500. When the water heater broke, $900. New tires for Dad's truck, $600. Past due electric bills, $300 here, $400 there." Every month for 3 years there was something. I scrolled slowly, highlighting amounts as they stacked up. This doesn't include Disney Plus, Hulu, Netflix, Spotify family plans, Walmart Plus, the phone bill, or the random Venmo emergencies that always seem to line up with holiday sales. Jason straightened in his chair, the color draining from his face as he recognized his own "I swear I'll pay you back next month" notes. My mom covered her mouth when she saw her texts next to deposits for gas money, followed by photos of a new nail salon. My dad's jaw tightened when he saw the PayPal transfer labeled knee surgery copay, followed by a receipt for a new flat-screen TV that same week. "This isn't fair," my mom whispered. "You're making us look bad." I shook my head. "I'm not making you look like anything. I'm showing what actually happened." I scrolled to the bottom where the total sat in bold. "In the last 36 months, I said quietly, I've sent this house just over $60,000. The room went silent. Jason blinked. My dad stared at the wall. My mom kept repeating, "That can't be right," as if saying it enough times would change the numbers. I reached into my bag, pulled out a thin stack of papers, and placed them next to the resort itinerary. "This is a simple agreement," I said. "It's not a lawsuit. It's not court. It's just a record that you acknowledge this money is owed and will be repaid. Slowly if needed. $50 a month, 100, whatever works." I explained that it was prepared from a legal template and reviewed by an advisor. "All it says," I added, tapping the total on the screen, "is that this was not a gift." My dad finally spoke, anger breaking through his shock. "We're family," he said. "You don't treat family like debtors. What are you going to do? Sue your own parents?" I met his eyes. Family doesn't hide a mortgage under their daughter's name and only call when a payment is late. Family doesn't spend her money on vacations and brunch, then tell everyone she abandoned them. My mother flinched as if I had struck her. Jason grabbed the papers, skimmed the first paragraph, and his voice cracked. "This is insane. I can't pay this back. None of us can." I leaned back in my chair. "I know, and I'm not asking you to. Not all at once. What I am done with is living in a story where you act like victims and paint me as the selfish career woman overseas. If you ever tell a neighbor, a cousin, or post online that I left you with nothing, I will show them these numbers. Every transfer, every bill I covered, every time you chose Starbucks over the electric bill because you knew I would step in." My mom shook her head repeatedly, whispering, "No, no, no. You wouldn't do that, Claire. You wouldn't embarrass your own family." I shrugged. "I'm not planning to, as long as you stop lying." Then I clicked to another tab, the one showing their resort reservation. The familiar logo filled the screen, along with their names, dates, and the last 4 digits of the card on file. My card. "About that family trip you're excited about," I said evenly. "You might want to sit down." My dad frowned and asked what I meant. I pointed to the status line under the reservation number. "Canceled." 3 days ago, I explained, I contacted the resort and the airline. Since the bookings were made with my card and my account, I had the authority to do it. The package was refunded. The flight credits were moved. I closed the laptop partway so I could see all of their faces. When I said I wasn't babysitting while you went on vacation, what I meant was there is no vacation anymore. Not without me. Not without my money. Not again on my dime. My dad jumped up when he saw the word canceled, as if glaring at the screen might change it. You had no right, he snapped. Those were our tickets. I didn't move. They were purchased with my card from my account, with my money. The right was mine. He opened his mouth to argue, but I was already clicking to the next screen. And that brings me to this house. An email from the bank appeared, showing both our names, Gary Miller and Claire Miller, co-borrowers. My dad went pale. My mom whispered, Claire, please, not this. We told you it was just paperwork. I swallowed the familiar tightness in my throat. You told me it was a formality. You told me it wouldn't affect me. But for years, I've been covering missed payments, and every one of them hit my credit too. I clicked again, and a small video window opened. My financial advisor appeared, sitting in her London office. We had spoken before I ever boarded the plane. She greeted me and asked if it was still a good time. I angled the laptop so my parents could see her. Perfect, I said. You remember my family situation. My dad hissed. Who is this? I answered calmly. This is the person who helped me understand what being a co-borrower on your mortgage really means, and what my options are now that I'm done covering for you. She introduced herself and explained clearly and without emotion that my credit was tied to the house, that missed payments were damaging me, and that I had the right to request removal from the loan. In practice, that meant the remaining borrowers would need to qualify on their own, refinance, or, if they couldn't meet the requirements, possibly sell the property to settle the debt. My mom shook her head, her voice trembling. You can't do that. We can't afford to move. We can't afford higher payments. The advisor remained calm. That's between you and the lender, ma'am. What I can say is that Claire is not required to stay on a loan she doesn't benefit from, especially when she's the one covering the shortfall. I thanked her and ended the call, my heart racing. The room felt smaller. My dad turned on me. You're going to make your own parents homeless over numbers on a screen? I met his eyes. No. I'm going to stop letting you risk my future while acting like I owe you my entire life. If you can afford resorts and flights when you think I'll babysit, you can afford to sit down with a bank and figure out how to pay for your own house. I reached into my bag and pulled out a folded letter. This is my formal notice, I said, that I'm stopping all automatic payments related to this property. The bank will contact you directly from now on. I'm also closing the joint checking account Mom convinced me to open just in case of emergencies. My mom made a broken sound. That's where grocery money comes from. That's how we pay utilities. How are we supposed to manage? I took a slow breath. The same way every other adult does, with your own income, your own budgeting, and your own consequences. I opened another tab showing the automatic payments I had set up over the years. Mortgage supplements, utilities, internet, streaming bundles, groceries, car payments. My name appeared next to every one. As of today, I said, hovering over the cancel buttons, these stop. The bills will be in your names. If they're late, that's between you and the companies, not me and my credit score. Jason finally spoke, panic in his voice. Claire, you can't cut everything off at once. At least give us time. I'll pick up more hours. I'll do more delivery shifts. I swear. Just don't do this. I turned to him. You're 34. You have 2 kids. You should have been doing that years ago without me as your backup plan. He stared down at the table. For a moment, I almost gave in. Almost slipped back into being the fixer, the quiet one who cried in private and made the problems disappear. Then I remembered the laughter at the door. The way my mom said, "You'll babysit," like it was already decided. That feeling shut off again. I canceled the payments one by one. Confirmation emails lit up my phone. My mom's breathing sped up. My dad sank into his chair. "This is cruel," he muttered. "You're punishing us." I shook my head. "No, I'm stepping out of a role you gave me without asking, and I'm letting you face what you can actually afford without hiding behind my bank account." I closed the laptop and stood up, unsteady but firm. "If you tell anyone I abandoned you," I said, "remember I have every receipt and every transfer. I'm done being the villain in a story you tell to feel better." I picked up my suitcase. You wanted a real vacation. Maybe this is one, from pretending I'm your solution. Let's see how life works without that. When my dad saw me heading for the hallway, he exploded, his chair scraping the floor. If you walk out after this, don't come back, he shouted. You're not welcome here if you're going to hold money over our heads. My mom reached for my arm. Gary, stop. She just needs to calm down. We can talk about this. But she didn't step between us. Jason stayed silent, staring at the floor. I paused in the doorway, hand on the handle, shaking. Part of me wanted to apologize and fix everything like always. Instead, I stood straight and said, You decided my value here was measured by what I pay. If I'm not welcome without my credit card, then I was never really welcome at all. My dad pointed to the door. Get out, he said. And don't come crying to us when London chews you up and spits you out. I almost laughed. London wasn't the place that had been draining me dry. I stepped outside into the California sun, closing the door behind me. No one followed. No one called my name. The only sound was Mia and Logan arguing over a cartoon in the living room, completely unaware that their vacation had just vanished. I ordered an Uber and dragged my suitcase to the curb, feeling more adrift than I actually was. The driver loaded my bag and asked, Where to? I breathed deeply and gave him an address I had never shared with my parents. A high-rise in downtown San Diego, 15 minutes from their quiet street, but a completely different world. 6 months earlier, after one too many late-night money transfers and guilt trips, I had used my savings and UX salary to put a down payment on a small, one-bedroom condo. I told my family I was just thinking about returning to the States someday, but the papers were already signed. My plan had been to move quietly, gradually disentangling myself from their finances. That night proved there was no gentle way to do it. When the Uber pulled up in front of the glass building, it felt surreal. I swiped my key fob, wheeled my suitcase through a lobby I had only seen twice, and rode the elevator to the 8th floor. The condo smelled of fresh paint and new carpet. No stress, no cooking smells, no desperation, just empty. Mine. I dropped my suitcase in the middle of the living room and looked out over the city lights. For the first time in years, my phone didn't buzz with, Can you send something until Friday? Or, the card got declined. Can you fix it? I opened my banking app and reviewed the few remaining expenses I had been covering that weren't in my name. Disney Plus, canceled. Hulu bundle, canceled. Spotify family account, shared cloud storage, random Apple charges for the kids' games, all canceled. Each confirmation email felt like releasing a weight that had been wrapped around me for a decade. I brewed a cup of grocery store coffee in my barely stocked kitchen and sat cross-legged on the floor because I didn't even have a couch yet. In the quiet, without my mom sighing or my dad's TV blaring, doubts came. Had I gone too far? Could they keep the lights on without me? Had I become the selfish, ungrateful daughter my dad always warned me about? Then I remembered the way my mom had opened the door like I was a maid, and Jason's joke about the kids wiping their snot on me while everyone laughed. Beneath the fear and guilt, a thin layer of peace settled in my chest. They would feel the impact of my absence, the bills, the late fees, but for the first time in years, I was saving no one but myself. I sipped my coffee and opened my laptop. Emails from the bank, utilities, and streaming services confirmed what I already knew. My family was now on their own. The first sign that my decisions were hitting them didn't come from a call or text. It came from Facebook. About a week later, my friend Emma sent me a screenshot of my dad's profile. A long, dramatic post about kids who forget their parents once they get a job overseas, left with nothing before Christmas. He didn't name me, but everyone knew. Comments poured in, painting him as the victim, and me as cold-hearted. My stomach twisted. He was rewriting the story, ignoring all the times I had paid silently. I paced, phone in hand, almost driving back, almost begging him to take it down, almost offering to reinstate a payment just to stop the embarrassment. But then, I pictured the spreadsheet on my laptop, the email linking me to their mortgage, the transfers, the way my mom had looked past me at the suitcase like I was a delivery. That image snapped me back. Instead of calling my dad, I emailed my financial advisor, explaining the post and asking if there was anything else I needed to do to protect myself. She replied calmly, detailing how to document everything, save all transfers and bills, and ensure the bank and relevant agencies had the full picture. She noted that when someone unofficially supports a household claiming hardship, it can be appropriate to review the situation to ensure everything is above board. I didn't need a step-by-step guide. I just needed confirmation that I wasn't imagining this. Over the next few weeks, while my dad kept posting vague complaints about ungrateful kids, envelopes began arriving at their house. I didn't see them myself, but my mom's frantic texts told me enough. Letters from the bank requesting updated mortgage information, messages from the IRS asking questions. The bank wanted proper documentation, the utility companies full payments, no more invisible safety net. The fog they had been hiding behind was thinning, leaving only the reality of what they could afford. Jason eventually texted, asking to meet at a nearby coffee shop. When he arrived, he looked smaller, without sarcasm to puff him up. Dark circles under his eyes, stubble, a delivery bag over his shoulder. He dropped into the chair across from me. "Dad needs to stop posting online," he said, rubbing his face. "He's making everything worse, embarrassing himself, Mom, and me too. And I know you're angry, but some of the letters, the calls, you did something, right?" I took a slow sip of coffee, letting him sit in the discomfort before answering. "I stopped pretending we were all being honest," I said. "I talked to professionals. I made sure my name wouldn't go down with a ship I wasn't steering. If the systems are finally noticing where the money has actually been coming from, that's not my fault." He stared at the table for a long moment before admitting he had taken more shifts, sold some old tech, and moved his kids into a smaller room to take on a roommate and reduce rent. "It sucks," he said quietly. For the first time, I was really seeing what everyday expenses actually cost: groceries, gas, daycare. Before, I hadn't paid attention. I just assumed that if things got bad, someone would text me to fix it. Meanwhile, my mom was selling designer bags and home decor she had bragged about on social media, listing them as barely used, though I knew exactly how often she'd taken them to brunch. The new TV my dad bought after his surgery, justified as recovery entertainment, vanished from the living room in my cousin's holiday photos, replaced with an old boxy set from the garage. Their truck was repossessed one gray morning after too many missed payments. The same scenario they used to scold neighbors about. Now it was their driveway, their embarrassment, as a tow truck carried away a symbol of a lifestyle they could no longer maintain. Through all of it, my dad kept my number unblocked but never called to apologize or tell the truth. He just posted vague, online grievances about betrayal and ingratitude, hoping someone would pass them to me, so I'd feel guilty enough to return. He told anyone who would listen that his daughter had abandoned him for money and status, conveniently omitting that money had flowed the other way for years. I didn't respond publicly. I didn't defend myself in comments. I didn't make my own dramatic post, even though a small part of me wanted to. I didn't have to. I had my receipts, my advisor, my own credit disentangled from theirs, and, most importantly, distance. Every time I saw someone share his story or heard gossip about how I disappointed him, all I thought was, if they knew the real numbers, they wouldn't ask why I left. They'd ask how I managed to stay as long as I did. By the next Christmas, the Miller house had shifted into a different reality, and so had mine. I noticed the changes in small ways. A tagged photo of my mom at a discount store instead of a boutique, a grainy picture of Jason's kids in a smaller apartment rather than my parents' backyard, friends asking if everything was okay. I didn't reach out. I focused on my job in San Diego, building my portfolio, decorating my condo paycheck by paycheck. I bought a secondhand couch, a small artificial tree, and strung up cheap fairy lights that made the place feel warmer than it had any right to. Then, one rainy Tuesday in December, someone knocked at my door. My stomach dropped when I checked the peephole. It was my mom, smaller somehow, no makeup, hair undone, clutching a reusable grocery bag to her chest like a shield. I let her in, heart racing. She looked around my living room, noting the couch, the view, the tiny Christmas tree with 3 mismatched ornaments. "I didn't know it looked like this," she said softly. "I always pictured you in something bigger, fancier." I shrugged. "This is what I can afford without paying for 2 households." She winced, as if I had struck her. Then she opened the bag and pulled out an envelope. Inside was a check, not $60,000, not close, but something. It's from selling things, she said quickly, eyes shiny. Bags, jewelry, the coffee table I hated, and picking up extra shifts at work. It's not much, but it's a start. I told Jason we can't pretend it was all a misunderstanding anymore. I stared at the check. It wasn't about the amount. It was about my mom, who had treated me like an ATM for years, standing in my small, human-sized living room and admitting it aloud. She sat on the edge of the couch, quiet and broken. Your father still says you betrayed us, she admitted. He tells everyone you turned on your family because you think you're better than us. But I can't keep saying that. Not after seeing the papers, the bank letters. We did use you. I did. I sat beside her, leaving space. I'm not asking you to hate him, I said. I'm asking you to stop letting him rewrite what happened so he doesn't feel guilty. She nodded, wiping her face. Jason's working, she added. Really working. Late-night warehouse shifts. He moved into a smaller place. The kids share a room now, but at least it's a place he pays for himself. He wanted me to tell you. Thank you for the spreadsheet. I laughed, a short, surprised sound. I didn't make that for him, I said. I made it for me. She studied me carefully. Do you think someday we could have a Christmas where it's just dinner? No money talk, no hidden bills, just us? My throat tightened. Maybe, I said, but only if everyone in that house understands I am no longer their safety net. If I come, it's because I want to, not because a payment is due. She nodded, stood and hugged me. A real hug, the kind I'd been chasing for years. When she left, I slipped the check into a drawer, not cashing it right away. For the first time, the flow of money was finally in the other direction. My dad's last post was another vague complaint about family turning their backs. I muted him, then blocked his profile and number. It felt less like slamming a door and more like closing a wound that had refused to heal. That Christmas Eve, I sat alone on my couch, tree lights blinking, a cheap mug of hot chocolate in my hands. For the first time in my life, I didn't feel obligated to be anywhere else. No flights, no babysitting, no emergency transfers. Just quiet. Just quiet. Mine. Here's what I learned. Family doesn't stop being family when you say no. The people who truly love you will adjust to your boundaries. The ones who were only there for what you could provide will call you selfish the moment you stop giving. It hurts. It's lonely. But sometimes distance is the only way to stop drowning in someone else's bad decisions. So I'll ask you this. If the people draining your bank account and your sanity share your last name, would you keep paying the price to be called loyal? Or would you walk away like I did and finally allow yourself to be your own family first?